can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Well, now, this is a bit daunting because the body of work that this man has accumulated over his 78 odd years on the planet is extraordinary. So much so that I've had to go to the machine like I always do, but it's impossible to pick out and go through every single thing he's done, but we'll touch on, I'm sure, just about all of them. This man sitting, he's a man, he is. He's not signalling as anything else, I know that. He's been in the theatre and musicals, he's been on television and radio, he's been an MC, or still is, he's been a director, he's a tour leader, he's a cancer survivor, and he is he's ubiquitous, he is everywhere, and he's a star. And he's not only here because I was at a function with another unique person called Captain Peter Jansen. And I saw this man, Captain Peter Jansen. I don't know if you've ever tracked him down. I'm just speaking not to you now, but Peter Jansen is just I don't know how he lives or how he survives like he does, but he had a party the other day for his, I think it was his 89th or his 85th birthday, I don't even know, and he had the who's who of Melbourne, hierarchy and movers and shakers, and I saw this man and I said, my God, I said, why haven't I thought of this before? Would you come and have a chat to us on You Cannot Be Serious? So here he is, it is the great Ken James. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, John. What a build-up.
Well,
you've set the bar very high, mate.
No, I haven't. I've only just read out your the cadre. Is it the cadre or the cachet?
CADRE.
Yes, the cadre of things that you've done.
Yes, I've done a bit.
You're looking good.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I'll get on to your health. I'll ask you that now. Yep. I noticed that I think you've overcome, or you're in remission from having
non-Hodgkin's.
I've got that written down here. I can just find it. Hodgkinson's myeloma.
It was called non-Hodgkin's. There was two.
It was called
non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which my oncologist said, if you're going to get cancer, this is the one to get.
Yes. What annoys me is that I've written that down. I can't even find where I've written it down, but that doesn't matter. Oh, yes, here it is. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yep, you got
That's right. I have written that down.
Yeah. So, or your glands swell up.
Yes. So you.
Blood disease.
I noticed that you discovered that by when you were shaving and found a lump.
Yep.
So just before we get on to things not more important than that, that is the most important thing. Just tell us how you are, and are you going well?
I'm fighting fit, John. I really am. I'm very lucky because I did discover it. I went to my oncologist who said to me, look, cancer is an insidious disease, as we all know. Sadly, I lost my sister with cancer, but she had a melanoma. Big difference.
Yep.
And the science in those days, because she was 16 years older than me. When I was born, she was 16. So in those days, she died at 42, but the science wasn't like today. And they said if she'd have had it today, they could have saved it. But with me, my doctor prescribed a medication called Mabthera, which did the trick. And incidentally, when I was in the Peter Mac having my treatment, I had Jimmy Steins in the bed next to me. And a strapping young, fit footballer, captain of Melbourne, and he passed away.
He did.
Go figure.
So this started off, we just got off the rails a little because I texted Ken. I said, would you come in? I want to speak to you about Skippy. And he texted back and said, oh, look, he said, I've done other work besides the Bush Adventures or whatever they're called of Skippy. And I said, Ken, I was joking, mate. You must get sick of people, but we're going to touch on Skippy. Don't worry about that.
Of course.
But I said I know, so I've. So this is what. Ken James, Skippy the Bush Kangaroo, the Box, Skyways, Glenview High, Sons and Daughters, Good Morning Australia. No, hang on.
Goes on and on, doesn't it?
Oh, shit, does it ever? Just a minute. I'm reading it out. All right, television, Adventurers, Skippy, Dynasty, The Group, Barrier Reef, Division 4, Matlock Police, The Box, Glenview High, Cat's Paw, Cop Shop, Skyways. I'm doing this. Bellamy, A Prisoner, Sons and Daughters,
Oh,
Pugwell,
stop.
Time Tracks. That's only the television film. They're a Weird Mob. Oh, wait till I get onto it. They're a Weird
that was
Mob.
funny. Yeah.
The Intruders, Fans, Notes, The Box, Silence of the North, and then it gets onto appearances: Split Seconds, Switched on Set, The Celebrity Game, The Latte Show, Good Morning Australia, McAuliffe Tonight, Millionaire Hot Seat, The Friday. It goes on, and then it just goes on. It's extraordinary. So I noticed the only thing that you didn't appear in the credits for.
What?
The only thing you didn't appear, you are uncredited for playing a bellboy.
Yes.
At the...
I was the bellboy.
You were a bellboy
at the Hampton Court Hotel.
That's King's Cross Hotel.
King's Cross.
For They're a Weird Mob.
When Walter Chiari goes to check into the hotel, I was standing behind him.
And
I was 12 years old.
Were you?
I was the bellboy.
Well, that must have been just about next to the first appearance that you ever had. That was on The Adventurers.
The Adventurers was a television series, for Channel 7, all those years ago in Sydney. There was about three kids, Jenny, Jim and Max, and I played the character of Max.
That was The Adventurers.
The Adventurers, yeah.
And
my first
I
TV
think
series.
I don't want to labour this, but that led you on to becoming... doing Skippy, didn't it?
Well,
Did it not?
Obviously I was still at school, and I did an ABC play, a television play, with the beautiful Helen Morse. And I said to Helen, how do I learn to become an actor? What do I do? Where do I go? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And she said, well, darling, you could go to NIDA. And I said, what's a NIDA?
Yeah.
And she explained what NIDA was, the dramatic. And I said, you know, my mum and dad aren't very wealthy. I couldn't afford to go to university. And she said, well, you could get a scholarship like I did. She received a scholarship to go to NIDA. And I actually auditioned. And I was 16 at the time. And somehow I won a scholarship. I was offered a scholarship to go to NIDA. Well, we'd done the pilot for Skippy, but Channel 9 were procrastinating. They hadn't made their mind up whether they'll do the series or not. And so I was in two minds. Should I wait to hear about the news from Skippy, or should I go to NIDA? And time was ticking away, and my agent said, go to NIDA. So I did, and I was there for 4 days. And then Channel 9 decided to do the series, and they offered me the role of Mark Hammond, and the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. And as I say, we don't want to. We're going to just get Skippy out of the way, because you must be sick and tired of talking about it.
It's like the elephant in the room, isn't it?
It is, but so you did that, and it's a worldwide phenomenon.
139 countries.
Yeah.
And 300 million people.
And the thing that ticks you off, and the people in it, that you get no residuals
Not
for
a cracker,
I see,
not a bean.
which is extraordinary.
Well, you know, I was interviewed by Richard Wilkins, pardon me. Richard interviewed me some years ago, and he said, if you could think of another name for Skippy, what would you call it? And I said, residuals. Yeah. Which made him laugh.
So incidentally, Ken, how did we come up with the name, or how did they come up with the name Skippy for a kangaroo? Because if you're a skip now, that means that denotes you're a white person,
that's
as
right.
opposed to
Aussie white person.
Skip.
Yeah.
So how did we come up with Skippy?
Well, they
Why
had
didn't we
various
call him
names.
Hoppy or Hopper?
Well, they had Bounce, they had Hoppy, they had all different names.
Skippy.
They were Forder Productions, the company that made the show, Lee Robinson, John McCullum. They sat down and they'd seen the series Flipper over in America.
Yes,
so Skippy's basically based on Flipper because there's an animal, there's the father, the ranger, two sons, and that's how they did it. I actually saw a Flipper script, and it's very similar. We made 92 episodes and a feature film.
I know, it's extraordinary. Did you actually was there ever a kangaroo in it?
Oh, of course.
Oh, was there?
Well,
was not that paw that came out and pointed to
you mean the bottle
words.
Openers?
Paw that came out and pointed to something in a book. And Skippy, is that where we're going, Skippy? Yeah. So
she had a pouch, so she could carry mail and she could carry keys and all sorts of things. But you see, every star has understudies. So Skippy was the star, but she had about 8 understudies.
8 other kangaroos before they were culled out by
we did this show for 3.5 years. You know,
fantastic.
And poor old Frank Thring, he said he was the arch evil guy. He played Dr. Alexander Stark, and he was a wonderful actor. Oh God, he was amazing. And I was 16 years old, and I'm on the set, and Frank would be talking about Hollywood. He'd be talking about these stars he worked with, and he wasn't dropping names. He knew these people intimately and worked with them, and he was wonderful. He'd regale us with these stories of old Hollywood, and I was just amazed.
Roland Roccacelli organised the
Roland.
last interview that Frank ever did.
Yeah.
I went and interviewed him. I have it on Steve. Do I have it on CD?
A treasure.
And I've never, which you've reminded me, we're going to download Frank Thring's interview. He was. I went around to his flat in Toorak, and I think he was maybe having just a tipple.
Yes, he did like a brandy.
I think he had a wine cask, as I understand it, just on the settee.
Okay.
And I said, "Hello, Frank. I'm Sam Newman. Dear boy, come in." Oh my word! Look at you, he said.
You do a very good impression.
Oh no, he was fantastic. He said, "Oh my," he said.
Hello, sweetheart.
Yes, hello. I said, "How is Ben Hur?" Or the old Skippy thing. How Ben Hur? He said, "Oh," he said, "Chuck Heston, oh my word," he said, "wasn't he a good-looking lad?" So this went on like this.
He said to me one day, "I love Ben, hated her."
So that's So we did Skippy, and that led on to a whole lot of other things. I don't know where to start.
Well, Skippy was coming to an end, as all good things do, because Ed Devereaux, the played Dad, he'd finished. He was getting tired. Tony Bonner had left and gone to London. Lisa Goddard had left, and all of a sudden the show was petering out of story ideas. So I was tapped on the shoulder by the producer, Lee Robinson, and said, "Okay, as you know, Skippy's coming to an end. We're doing another TV series called Barrier Reef, and you're in it." I said, "I'm in it." They said, "We've cast you." I went, "Oh."
You celebrated your 21st birthday up at Hamilton Island.
You have done your research.
Well, I'm
good man.
Well, you celebrated you said you were tapped on the shoulder. Were you ever tapped on the shoulder for nefarious reasons by people wishing to groom you for anything? Because I've spoken to a lot of people like you, not like you, I mean a lot of young child prodigies, and they
Child
stars.
Yeah.
And I think Mark Holden was one of them. I spoke to Mark over in Adelaide, and he said, I thought Liberace asked him to come over. Maybe I got the wrong person.
Jamie Redfern.
Exactly right, Ken. It was Jamie Redfern. And thank you for
that.
Because if Mark hears this, because he's a good man, Mark, but
lovely man.
Yeah, and so you didn't ever have to worry about anyone trying to groom you for anything,
I think
man, woman or beast.
People realised I was straight and I didn't row in that boat, and made it quite clear, so there was never a problem. I mean, Frank was wonderful. He'd say to me, you've never tried the real thing, have you, darling? I say, "No, Frank, I don't row in your boat, love. I'm straight." "Oh, what a shame, you're so pretty."
That's right.
And he said to Tony Bonner and me, he said, I want to take you two pretties to dinner. And I said, "Frank, we don't." He said, "No, really, it's quite fine." So I said to Bonner, "Safety in numbers, I'll go if you go." Yeah. So we went to a restaurant in Sydney called The Hungry Horse. And Frank always liked making an entrance. Yeah. And he always used to wear a cape and lots of jewellery. And he stood in the hallway, and there was all these old queens having dinner in the restaurant. And they sort of stopped and turned and went, "Oh!" As Frank was standing in the doorway, and he looked at it and he said, "They're mine." Yeah.
When I interviewed Frank, I said, "You're a contradiction in terms. You actually married a woman, Frank." He said,
he had to.
"Yes, indeed. He had to. Oh my word!"
He wouldn't have got his inheritance. Now his father made it quite. I believe the story goes allegedly. His father said, "If you don't marry a woman, you're not getting your inheritance." So he married his secretary.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
I got 1 million of them.
Have you?
Oh, I got so many stories. That's one of the great things about being in show business.
I want to hear you
meeting wonderful people.
I can read out all these things that you've done.
Oh well.
But what people are interested in is the backstories, the understories, and I don't know them because I've not done this with you before, and I've known. Where did we meet?
You and I met 50 years ago in Melbourne. Now, you've got to understand, I was from Sydney. I had never even seen a game of, in those days, VFL football, AFL football. And I came down from Sydney to work for Hector Crawford, this TV series called The Box.
Yep.
It was being shot in Melbourne. And I said, was it a cocktail party organised by Tony Healy, who sadly passed away a couple of months ago. Big loss. But Tony's sister was the casting director Loretta Healy of Crawford Productions. Loretta was the casting director of Crawford's. So she cast me in the show, and I came down, and Tony had this cocktail party because he had a PR company, and one of his clients was Marini's hairdressing salon. And you and Doug Wade were there because you worked with Schwarzkopf at the time. Indeed. And I had no idea who you were.
Well, we didn't work with Schwarzkopf. We worked with a product, Australian-made product called Delva.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, there's Vincent De Lorenzo.
There you go.
And we had the agency in Victoria, and a Queensland company wanted to have the whole eastern seaboard of Delva, and so they bought Doug and I out.
Yes.
We'd been in business for a decade.
There you go.
You know, a couple of dumb footballers going around selling hairdressing products to ladies' beauty salons, and it
was rather incongruous.
Yes, so that's where we met, is it?
We met at the cocktail party, and you obviously didn't realise that I had no idea who you were. Because you're very famous. You're very famous in Victoria. But in Sydney, not so much, 50 years ago.
That's it. Let's hope. Yeah. So that's where, was it?
We met, there you go.
So now, the box, that was one of the three, I think, edgy, controversial...
like number 96.
Number 96, and then there was the Mavis Bramston show.
Yes,
but you weren't on 96, were you?
No, I was in the box.
I know you were in the box.
The reason the box was made was because of 96.
I know. I was getting to that, Ken.
Right. Sorry.
I knew you weren't in the 96, and I was just saying they were the three edgy shows, iconic shows of the time, weren't they?
Yes. Nudity and
yes, and
innuendo.
Suggestive stuff. How did you get the part of the box?
Well,
I know you told us that.
No, it's interesting.
Yes.
Really, because I was a Sydney actor, and they couldn't cast this character. Just to give you a backstory, the box was about a television studio called Channel 12. And all about the lives and the loves of the people involved.
From 74 to 78.
That's right, yeah, 4 years of my life. And consequently, one of the characters was called Tony Wilde. Yeah. And he was an actor who was playing in a television series called Manhunt. So in effect, they wanted an actor to play an actor playing an actor. Yeah. And they couldn't cast him, having a lot of trouble. And they flew a lot of actors down from Sydney to Melbourne to audition. And I walked in, I did my screen test, and Loretta just stopped and screamed out, "I found him! I found him!" And she came running out. That's a true story. She went running out and she saw Ian, the directors of Crawford's. They came running in and they were very excited, and they played back the screen test, and they offered me the role on the spot.
Did they?
And I said, I can't accept the role. I'm married. I've got a wife and a son, who, by the way, is turning 52 shortly.
Is that right?
Yeah, my son Adrian. Anyway, so he was 1 year old. I was based in Sydney, an actor, and I couldn't accept the role. I had to talk to my agent, and they said, well, you'll be working in Melbourne all during the week, and then you'll fly back to Sydney on the weekends. And as far as they were concerned, it was signed and sealed because they'd finally found an actor who could play Tony Wilde.
Did I deduce from the first part of this chat that you had an agent when you were 12?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes. That's how I started.
So the same person, or did you get...
The same agent, yes, Gloria Payton, International Casting Service.
So they didn't screw you over, or they were
I've only ever had... Well, she was the one who signed the in perpetuity contract, which means I don't get residuals ever. But that's how it was in those days.
They'd probably have a foot in both camps. We'll get you the talent, and they'll say to the people who are trying to get the talent, don't worry, we'll do a good deal for you.
The fact of the matter is, if I'd have said, oh, you're not paying residuals, they'd have said, next.
Yep, that's right.
Get the next kid off the rank. Come on, be realistic.
I was just about to say something else about the box.
The box was huge success.
It was a huge
success. It made a lot of money because Hector Crawford was reluctant to do it.
Did you meet Hector?
Oh, he was my mentor.
Was he?
Hector Crawford was wonderful, like a second father in many ways. But you see, Hector made shows that were wholesome, like Homicide, Division 4, Matlock, those kind of shows. He wasn't interested.
All those shows that you were in.
Oh, I did guest spots.
Well, that's being in them.
But in a series, you're getting a regular paycheck every week, and 4 years of regular pay was great.
Were you? Did you think just what were you paid to do the box?
Increments. I mean, the early days. I think the last pay was about 1,000 to 1,500 a week. In those days, pretty good money.
Pretty good money.
But there were, once again, no residuals. No. And the show was repeated. But the story with the box is that it was only made because number 96 was produced in Sydney by a company, and they did so much business for they called the O10 network. And Hector Crawford had to be persuaded by his executives to do a show similar, and that's where the box became. I got a life.
They did out at Channel O in Nunawading, did they?
Exactly right, out at Nunawading. I was living in Surrey Hills, so it was easy for me to get out to Nunawading. I wish I still had the house in Surrey Hills.
And you, we'll get on to all the other, as I say, there's so many things I could speak to you about in the shows you've been in, but you were a celebrity chef alongside Bert for a decade.
I worked with, well, that was once again, by accident. I'd done a thing with Ernie Sigley when I was doing the box, and he said, "You do a bit of cooking, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, well, I do I do enjoy cooking. I'm not a chef. Yeah. I'm a bloke who likes to cook." Yeah. So I did a little spot with him, and he said, "That was wonderful. That was so good." And he said, would you please go back to my dressing room and wait in the dressing room, and we'll go back to our place in Glen Iris, and Glenys, his wife, always tapes the show, and we'll show you how good you and I were. We'll show you how good we were. I said, wow, okay. So we went back to their place, and he said, Glenys phoned me, and she said, you found him, haven't you? You found him. Yeah. And I went, wow. So he went to get changed, and I said to Glenys, that was lovely what you said about you found him. She said, what do you mean, darling? When you spoke to Ernie on the phone. She said, I didn't speak to Ernie on the phone. See, Ernie had to ingratiate himself. That was his modus operandi.
You've actually I was going to say, that's his modus operandi. I worked for Ernie on...
You speak Latin too, do you?
On 3 different things. Yeah. On 9, sports. When he did he got me in to speak sports, and he employed me, sacked me 3 times. Because if you came across that you knew a little more about the sport that he was talking about, he never liked to be one-upped.
No, there are a lot of stars like that.
He sacked me 3 times. Twice off 2 different shows on Channel 9 and once off 3AW.
Well, that's why Hector Crawford was so wonderful. He called me to his office about 2 years into the show, and I was really comfortable in the character I'd created, this Tony Wilde, and he was working. And Hector called me in and he said, Ken, sit down. I'd like to discuss with you the secret to life, success in life. And I thought, oh my God, I'm about to be told the secret to the success in life. And I leaned forward in my chair and he said, the secret to success...
This is Hector.
This is Hector Crawford, one-on-one with me. Yep. The secret to success in life is to surround yourself with good people. And that's what he did. Yep. He always had good people working for him. And that was his success.
And wasn't insecure enough to think that they were going to knife him, or so that's just being confident.
No, he had good loyal people.
Yes, that's
as my old man, my father was a blue collar worker. Yep. My old man, and he would say in his vernacular, "Don't fall into mugs." That's what my father would say. Whereas Hector Crawford said he would enunciate it better: surround yourself with good people.
Did you ever meet the great? Anything to do with the great Graham Kennedy, or was he?
Oh yes. Graham was wonderful. Matter of fact, we sadly lost one of the actors. Paul Caro died about 2 weeks ago. He played Lee Whiteman. He was the flamboyant gay director. He was wonderful. Yep. And when we were making the film up on Eildon Weir on location, Paul and I were invited to have dinner with this very wealthy family about 80 kilometres away from the location. The Lane family. They Lane Motors. Yep. They lived in Toorak. Yep. And I said to Paul, "We've got no way to get there." And Graham said, "Take the roller." Oh. He gave us his Rolls Royce.
Did he?
And I made Paul drive, and I sat in the back seat. I felt very rich.
Fantastic. It's amazing, isn't it?
Graham was wonderful. Graham also was. I could sit and talk to him. I said, I'm worried about not making a career of acting. Graham, what do you think? He said, Ken, never worry about being a has-been. Worry about being a never was-been.
Yeah, is that right? Yep. Yeah. You had just jumping all over the place here, Kenny. You had directed Calendar Girls.
I did, yeah.
Now, what was that about?
Well, see, it started about...
How did you come to be the director?
Well, I did a play called Ladies' Night, and I was one of the actors in the show. Yeah. But it was like the Chippendales. They had to get their gear off because they gave me the script and they said, pick a character you want to play. And I said, well, I ain't getting my gear off 8 times a week. You can forget that. So I ended up playing a smaller character who ran the club where the boys performed.
And you directed the...
No, I was in that show. And then the company who produced that said, our next production is Calendar Girls. Yep. Would you direct it? And Calendar Girls is it's a true story. Yep. It's about these women in England one of the husbands is dying of cancer. And they went to visit him and there was nowhere to sit. And they said, we've got to buy a seat. We've got to buy a lounge to provide seating for people like us who were, here to visit sick people. So they thought, what they come up with an idea. Let's do a calendar and be half naked and have our private parts covered by watermelons or toast or something, and knitting. And so they did this calendar. It went unbelievably successful, and they made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. They bought a hospital.
Did they?
It's a true story.
Did they?
It's a wonderful story.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah.
So then I'm not only interested in this, I was interested in this because Anything Goes was
a musical.
Cole Porter Cole Porter, my absolute idol.
You and I are on the same page. What a wordsmith.
Anything Goes. How does that song go? Anything goes.
In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking. Now heaven knows, anything goes. And I played the part of Lordy,
who once knew better words, know only now four-letter words, writing prose, anything.
Very good, John.
And I'm going to ask you this question, see if you know it. So Victoria Nichols.
Yes, she played by Janet in Rocky Horror.
So I want to ask you a question.
Go on.
What song did she sing that was, I think, maybe went to number one? Victoria Nichols.
I know our band played very upbeat, and she was very good. She was very good in the role.
She brought out a single, and I think it was almost number one. Sue will tell us. It was called Midnight Rendezvous.
Wow.
Midnight Rendezvous. Looking you and looking.
Okay. Well, we had a great cast. We had apart from we had Russell Morris.
Oh,
he played Riff Raff. He became a great mate of ours because we toured Australia with the show. I played Brad.
Yeah.
That's why Victoria and I worked together so closely, because she was by Janet, Brad and Janet. And I had to sing that song, Damn It, Janet. And, of course, the time warp, and we had to dance a lot and wear stockings. And one day we were rehearsing in Townsville. We opened in Townsville. And the director said, now, Russell, Ken, you've got to go and buy some high-heel shoes for the dance. So Russell and I, we walked to this lady's shoe shop, and Russell said, they look nice. And I said, excuse me, we're actors from down south, and we want to buy a pair of high heel shoes. And the young girl said, I understand.
Yeah, that's good. How are we going, Sue? Midnight Rendezvous, Victoria Nichols. That doesn't really matter. I'm going to. Some more shows I want to. So you have a very unique view to cohabiting with your wife.
Well, no, Rosemary and I have been together 25 years, and she lives in Geelong, and I live in Melbourne.
Stuhlner.
Yeah, German name. The former husband was German.
Yeah, Stuhlner.
Yes, and she has 2 beautiful children and 6 divine grandchildren. Yeah. And because we've been together 25 years, the eldest is 19, so they know me as their pa. So as far as they're concerned, I've been their pa all their life. So they call me pa. And I have 2 children with 4, and also I have 4 grandchildren.
Yes, but you don't cohabit with her, do you?
We don't live together. We share
extraordinarily successful liaison. I've had a few goes at it. Mm-hmm. I would have only had one go, I reckon, if I hadn't had to cohabit. No, I'm only joking.
We've both been married before, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're in a committed relationship. I refer to Rosemary as my wife.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And we travel a lot. Matter of fact, she's going back to Italy. It's her 4th trip to Italy, 4 years in a row, because her background's Italian. Sicilian mother and Calabrese father. Hello.
Magnificent. So, of all the show, I could read them out again. There's hundreds of me. I just read them out. Tell people who listen to this, some of the impressive people you've come across, some of the people who aren't really. Have you got any stories that the back chat of all the things you've done that have? Have you ever written a book?
I've been told I should,
yes,
and I've got the title. I've got the title.
What?
The title is "Would You Be Happy with Herpes?" No, I'm not. That's a backstory. When I was doing the TV series Skyways, my character Simon Young was an air traffic controller who lived with his mother. He'd never had any kind of relationship in any form, and he was a virgin, and that's how I played the character as written. And I walked into about a year into the show, I walk into the studio and the rest of the cast are having a bit of a smirk. And I said, what's so funny? What's going on, guys? And they said, have you seen next week's script? And I said, no. Just go and look at page 17. So I grabbed my script and turned to page 17. I've got the clap. My character has got a virgin. He's got, how on do I? So I saw the producer, Jock Blair, out of the corner of my eye, and I started running after him. I'm going to kill him with my hands. Character assassination. And he's running away from me because I will kill him. And all of a sudden the door opens. Now, Hector Crawford didn't know anyone's name. Everyone's called fella.
Yep.
You'd be called fella. The girls would be called, good day, fella. How you going, fella? Hello, fella. Well, the door's open, and Mr. Crawford walks out with his entourage, and he says, good morning, fella. I said, no, it's not Mr. Crawford. I've got the clap. He went, I'm sorry. And he walked away. And by then, Jock's done a runner, and I couldn't find. I'm like a cat on crack. I'm like, someone has to die. Someone has to die. And then I go to rehearsal, and I get a little tap on the shoulder from Mr. Crawford's PA, and said, Mr. Crawford would like to know if you're free for lunch. We'd like to have a chat. And I said, I'm in the first scene before the lunch break, and the last scene, I said, I can give him 34 minutes. I wasn't happy.
How old were you?
Oh, in my mid-20s.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So I go to this meeting, I walk in the door, and there's Hector Crawford, Ian Jones, Jock Blair in the corner, and me. So it was like a general, a colonel, a major, a lieutenant, and a private. So I walk in there, and I'm seething. And Ian Crawford says, well, Ken, you must understand how we feel. We're not very happy either because the script's been approved, and you must understand with things are in all chronological order and actors have been cast and you're coming down to, and we do understand how you feel. Would you be happy with herpes? I said, are you people insane? Don't you understand what? And I walked out, and then I got a big bunch of flowers.
Did you?
From Mr. Crawford apologising.
It's interesting. So, did you ever? I was going to say, did you ever have anything to do with Rob Asprey?
Oh yes, I did.
Yes,
Rob, years ago.
Well,
Rob, good friend of Graham Kennedy's.
I was just going to say, an extremely good friend.
Close.
I think he was his chauffeur. They used to
exactly
drive him down to.
He would drive him everywhere.
Not Mount Martha.
Mount Eliza.
Mount Eliza.
I know.
Yes,
been to the house.
I knew Rob well because he sat next to me coming back from a state game I played in Adelaide, and he sat next to me, and I didn't really know Rob, but he was talking to me in the plane about, and there was no such thing as phones as you could record on the phones. He had a tape recorder, a little tape recorder, and he said, you're a good-looking lad. He said, you just stay with your heterosexual. I said, I am, Rob. Yeah, why do you ask? He said, oh no. He said, have you ever tried? And and so
never tried the real thing, have you?
He sort of said that. So we get to Tullamarine, and I had my car there. I said, would you like I said, would you like? I will drive you back. He said, that's very nice of you. And I opened the boot and put his luggage in. He said, and he showed me the tape recorder. He said, you know, I've tape recorded our conversation. I said, you've what? Ooh. What about me chatting about? Because I was sending him up a bit. I was just taking tongue in cheek. I said, well, I haven't had a go at it, Rob, but I said, if you're offering, mate, I said,
please.
Please, just give us an offer. I can't refuse. And I said, Rob, I'm telling you what now, we've getting on well. I said, you delete that right now.
Absolutely.
He said, mate, I wouldn't do it. I said, Rob.
Trust me.
Delete it. So he did delete it.
Good.
And he gave me which I've got it here somewhere. I don't know if he ever brought the book out, but he then went over to Thailand because he got AIDS.
Yes.
And his book was Rob Asprey, Living with AIDS, which he actually died of. Yeah. And I've got the book. I've got I don't know if he ever bought it out, but I've got the whole book there that he gave me. He said, read this, tell me what you think of it.
Yeah, fabulous memories, John, really fabulous.
It's extraordinary.
And that's one of the great things about, I was saying earlier in our chat, the one great thing about show business is meeting wonderful people and spending time with them and creative people. You know, surround yourself with good people. That's a secret.
And so you've delved into just about every aspect of public life here. The police embraced you. You embraced the police force and became.
I believe in the thin blue line. What happened was part of a detective training school known as DTS in the job. DTS, they recreate major crime, so young coppers can see what a major, like a hold-up looks like, or a sexual assault looks like. So they needed role players. And a friend of mine, he's passed away now, Kim West, he was a detective inspector.
Yeah, I knew Kim
West. Yeah, he was a legend.
I used to communicate with Kim
Yeah,
West.
he was a legend. Big
wasn't
man,
he? Yeah, that's right.
passed away sadly. And Kim said to me, he was actually teaching, he was one of the lecturers at DTS, and he said, we need actors to role plays. Would you be interested? And I said, of course I would. So I went along and I played bank managers who get robbed, and I play witnesses to sexual assaults and whatever. And after about 3 or 4 months, I had a coffee with Neil Comrie, who was then the Commissioner of Police. And I said, Mr. Comrie, he said, first of all, he said, Ken, we want to thank you for your involvement, because I was doing it for no money. I wasn't getting paid. I did a pro rata. And I said to him, Mr. Comrie, we have a problem. He said, Ken, I've got a lot of problems. I said, well, one of them is I think your detectives don't know how to communicate effectively, because they're talking to the public daily and they're not really au fait on how to communicate effectively. He said, you've got my ear, keep going. I said, well, I can teach them how to communicate effectively. See, we all wear different antennas. We all receive information differently. And the key to effective communication is to teach or to get your story across to someone in a way they want to hear it and understand it. Yeah. So like a detective might be talking to someone who's affected by drugs or alcohol and they're not quite getting the message. It's your job to make sure they understand what you're saying. So I taught that for 20 years.
And they made you an honorary agent, an honorary...
Well, I was an unsworn member.
Yes, well,
I don't carry a Freddie, I don't wear a uniform, but I get invited to a lot of functions, and I've got a lot of plaques on the wall thanking me for my service.
Well, you have something in common with Elvis Presley, who got in touch with Richard Nixon when he was the president, and Elvis was either on a bender or I don't know what he was doing, but he said,
I want to carry a gun.
He said, I want to be a secret FBI agent.
I know the story.
And the irony of that is, imagine Elvis infiltrating a group of, and if they wouldn't recognise him, he wanted to be a secret FBI agent.
Be undercover.
So he was. So they gave him a badge, and I'm not sure they gave him a gun. He probably had plenty of his own. Oh yeah. But they made him an honorary FBI agent. Funny? That is extraordinary.
Well, I've got a lot of friends.
Secret agent.
A secret agent.
No one had recognised Elvis
Presley, one of the most famous faces in the world.
Yeah.
But I met Muhammad Ali at the Logie Awards. He walked towards me, and I thought, I see a photograph of you there. Wow.
That might be at the very awards. I'm not sure.
Well, at the Logie Awards, it was at the year that he Bert Newton said, I like the boy.
That's right, I like the boy.
I was there, and Don Lane nearly fell out of his chair because he knew that comment made to African American people, and not very complimentary. But of course, Bert did it by accident, didn't realise what he was saying. But when I shook Muhammad Ali's hand, it was like shaking a very soft hand. He wasn't. He could have crunched my hand, but he was. I said, Mr. Ali, it is my honour to meet you, and he said, Sir, it's my honour to meet you.
Yeah, no,
he was so softly spoken.
Yep, he was.
Yeah.
So, what did you of all the things that you've been in, what did you enjoy doing most, or what gave you the most satisfaction that it was your best work? Or
well, this is not a get out here, but an answer. But I've been asked that question many times by journalists.
That disappoints
me.
me.
By journalists, they want to know. Yeah. And my stock answer is the show that I'm currently working on.
Yes,
as always, because you've got to put 110% in. And
it's disrespectful to if you're nominated. I get asked, and I'm sure you have. So, could you? We're doing a survey. What are your 5 favourite restaurants? And I say, mate, I'm not telling you my 5 most restaurants because I have plenty of people who are at restaurants, and if I don't include them, they'll say, well, what's wrong with our restaurant?
Each show you do has a plus. Positive, like dancing in the Rocky Horror was fabulous. Musicals like Anything Goes, having the privilege of singing all those wonderful lyrics. Shows like the Tony Wilde was my creation because John Mellion, the great late John Mellion, who I loved and adore, his brother Bob was one of our directors, Bob Mellion. And when he came into the show about 2 years in, he said, Ken, I'm not going to even attempt to direct you because you created the character Tony Wilde. You know it better than anybody. So just do what you do your thing. And I did, and it was successful. And I was very happy with that show. But Skippy was huge because it gave me a break. As Tony Bonner and I'd say, there's no point crying over not getting residuals. It opened a door for me internationally. And that's why I got Barrier Reef. And then I went to another show, and the group, and Glenview High, and the opportunity of constant, continual work. And as an actor, getting a paycheck every week was fabulous.
Have you done fiscally well out of...
No, I haven't. Not really. No, I'm not living on death's door, as sadly some actors do. Yeah. They do it tough. But I own my own apartment, and I guess I can travel overseas if I have to. But no, I'm not a rich man. Some of my friends are very wealthy. Yeah. I move in a very good circle of very, very wealthy friends, and we're all wonderful. But sometimes it's hard to keep up with billionaires.
Yeah, Ken, you're now it's as I say, if I open up this machine again and I just read out all the things you've been in, we could go through them all. I'm relying on you. Just so you said you haven't got a favourite thing, but you enjoyed doing it, and you've had no one try and snip you and stab you in the back in this industry that people climb over you if they could. Yeah. You've probably experienced that, have you?
Oh yeah, there have been moments, but the attitude is you got to keep smiling. Yeah. Turn up on time. Don't fall over the furniture. Get your words right.
Overseas, you've met overseas celebrities, and
I met them in Australia. Yeah. I won Logie Awards one year. I had the privilege of being with Robin Williams.
Yes,
I had half an hour with Robin Williams. What a mind! Amazing mind.
This is the man
late great.
Yes, I would say. He's probably on the Bolivian booger sugar, was he?
He did say to me he put the gross national product of Bolivia up his nose.
Yes, he did. And
but he stopped drinking. And sadly, John, when he realised he was dying, his brain was dying, that's why he took his own life, because he realised his greatest asset he'd be losing.
Yep. And
took his own life.
It's amazing. You're a star. What else could we chat about?
I love cooking.
I was right down here. You're a celebrity chef. My first question was going to be, if I asked you to cook me a meal or suggest a fare that we might eat, what would it be?
Well, I love a combination of French and Asian. Yeah. It's called chinois. I might do an Asian entree and a French main. I might do a bouillabaisse and a chateaubriand. I might do, I don't know, you tell me. What would you like? I can...
I'm into that. Chinois was the name of a restaurant.
That's right.
Toorak Road by the late man who owned, I can't think of his name, he passed away, and he owned the, down next to the Stoke House on...
Donovan's.
Parade. Donovan's. Oh, well, Kevin Donovan.
Kevin Donovan, that's exactly right.
He passed away. Yeah, and chinois with his wife.
But chinois, to me, it's a combination of cuisine.
Yes,
and I really do. I have great dinner parties.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. I love it.
I took Sue Stanley away. We went away on a boat for 6 months. And
I read about that.
Yeah, I had never cooked in my life. I said, you do other things on the boat, I'll do the cooking. And
did you starve?
No, we very simple things. I cook fish and steak, and don't get over the top of my skis. I don't.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Don't get ahead of myself, but we've survived, and no, it's been good. You've been fantastic.
Thank you, my friend.
No, you have. So you're not a pilot, are you?
No, I did Skyways. Funnily enough, I played an air traffic controller, and I had no idea what I was saying.
No.
Or there's Romeo, Tango, Juliet coming in. What am I saying?
You're good at doing the lines and rehearsing.
Yes, I must admit, I've got a pretty good memory. I did a play years ago called Run for Your Wife, and it was about a taxi driver called John Smith. He was a very plain, ordinary person, but he was a bigamist. John Smith. Yep. And he was a bigamist. He loved and married 2 women.
Yep.
He loved them both. But of course, he had to keep them separate. So he'd tell one wife, he was a taxi driver. So he'd tell one wife a story, then he'd tell the other wife the same story a different way. That was tough, getting all those words down. The book was about 110 pages, and my character was on stage for 98 pages. At 98 pages of dialogue. David McCullum, the English actor who's sadly also gone to God, he played Ilya Kuryakin in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. series. He was cast in that character in London on the West End. And the reason I know this is because the director also directed me in the Australian production, and he said to me, you've done something that David McCullum couldn't do. Because after 1 week of rehearsals, David said, I'm sorry, I can't get these words down, I'm leaving. And he walked out.
and you
It almost set me crazy,
Yeah.
but I got him down.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, what do you like watching today?
Oh.
What? I don't know if you're into the Netflix.
I do.
Free-to-air television.
Oh
is
yes,
just
I have
almost-
Netflix, I have Foxtel.
You couldn't watch free-to-air television. The crap that's on free-to-air. I'm not asking you to say this. The crap that is on free-to-air television is frightening.
Well, I
but
do watch
anyhow-
YouTube. I watch
Yes.
YouTube, and I got to say, John,
What
the other
do you-
day I had a bit of a cry. Actually, I was watching a thing on Australian actors who've recently passed away,
Yep.
and one after one, and I knew them all.
Yep.
I'd worked with them; they were colleagues, and I got very teary.
Yes, and do you watch a series or films on
I
Netflix?
did like The White Lotus because
Yeah,
I've been to Sicily quite a few
currently
times.
going.
I didn't like 1, didn't like 3, loved 2 when they was all
Yep.
took place in Sicily. So we know Sicily pretty well. Matter of fact, August, September this year we were there. We were in Catania, and we went to Rome. And Rosemary's going back there. She's going to Rome and she's going to Florence, which is one of my favourite cities in the world. Is Florence.
So, just finally, just a Dorothy Dixer. This is who's the most who's impressed? Who's the most impressive? Who's impressed you the most because of their nature, their talent? Who do you?
That's too hard a question.
Is it?
Too hard a question, mate? I've been so fortunate to work with amazing people, and I'm blessed. So
Yeah.
I couldn't say one above the others.
No, it's a bit like the what's your favourite restaurant question, isn't it? You don't want to.
Who's your favourite
exclude-
child?
Yeah,
You know?
that's right. Ken James, this has been. People say, why didn't you ask him this? And that? There's
You can invite me back again.
There's so many shows as I read them out. So many things you've done, but you are a genuine icon of the Australian film and entertainment industry. And if anyone has any doubt of that, just Google what Ken James has done in his career. And I wish you well. I hope you remain in good health. That's positive
Thank you, my
outlook.
friend. Well, I'm in remission.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the doctors keep an eye on you. And
Every
say
4
you're
months.
going beautifully.
Blood
Yeah.
test and away I go.
Yeah.
And my oncologist is a wonderful guy, Max Wolf. He said to me, I sit there and tell him Jewish jokes, make him laugh.
Yeah.
He said, your blood's worth bottling.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So I'm a cancer survivor too.
Yep.
I get the blood test every 6
man.
months for prostate.
Yep,
So
there you go.
And now it's the Jewish kamikaze pilot that flew his plane into his brother-in-law's scrapyard.
Very funny.
You tell your oncologist that. Yeah. All right. Well, Ken, thank you so much. It's
been my pleasure, mate.
You're a star, and appreciate you coming on. You cannot be serious.
Thank you.
Good on you.